Welcome to It's the Groove, the podcast that takes you under the wrapper to discover the hidden connections in the music we love. Hi, I'm your co-host Dave, and as always, I'm joined by the CEO of It's the Groove, direct from our world headquarters in Toronto, Kelly. Hi, Kelly. How are you today?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Sounds awesome. I'm still coming down off the high from the recent concert. So tell me, what are we going to be doing today?
Well, you're going to tell us about your experience at the Doobie Brothers Steve Winwood concert as Groove
Yes,
Ambassador. Mm-hmm.
that's right. The old Groove Ambassador. Well, we sure had a good time. It was a wonderful concert, terrific music, and it was really uncomfortably warm. But other than that, it was a great night.
I'm glad you survived.
I might have to ring out that Groove Ambassador T-shirt, but
Okay, yeah, I don't need to know that. Okay. So we're going to get started now.
yeah.
Okay. So who are these guys? Can you give me a little backstory on Steve Winwood?
Yes, absolutely. So Steve Winwood is a very talented and very long-standing multi-instrumentalist. He started back in, believe it or not, in the mid-'60s, and he's been in several groups over that period of time, including the Spencer Davis group, a group called Traffic that also had artists you might recognize, Jim Capaldi and Dave Mason. And then for a short period, he was in a super group called Blind Faith with Eric Clapton and Ginger Baker. Many of our listeners may remember him primarily for his solo career, which was primarily during the 80s, where he had a number of hit songs.
Yeah, that's how I remember him mostly.
Yeah.
The Doobie Brothers have gone through some significant changes over the years. Can you tell us how the band came together?
Yes, it was really kind of put together in Northern California in the very early 70s with lead singers and guitarists and songwriters Tom Johnston and Patrick Simmons. They really had a guitar-oriented rock sound, and they were very, very popular, had a lot of hit songs. Part of they were touring a lot, and Tom Johnston ran into some pretty serious health issues and had to step aside for a while. And at the time, they had another guitar player by the name of Jeff Skunk Baxter, and Baxter recruited basically Michael McDonald. Both of them had played with Steely Dan, and when Steely Dan stopped touring, Baxter went because he wanted a permanent gig, so he went off to the Doobies. And after Tom Johnston fell ill, he recruited Michael McDonald to come help with the vocals. And later on, Michael really became kind of the face of the band, writing a lot of the songs and obviously being the primary lead vocalist for the band. So it was interesting because they went, for probably the first half of the 70s decade, they were mostly a guitar-oriented rock. And the second half of the 70s, they were much more keyboard and horn oriented and more blue-eyed soul. So both incarnations of the band, very successful, lots of hits, but very different sounds, So this was the first time the band broke up in the early 80s, and they kind of reformed and had been doing some touring. I had heard them once before, and Michael McDonald wasn't even with them, right? So it was just the original group. And I walked away from that concert a little disappointed because I didn't hear some of the songs I really wanted to hear, So the other night was really nice because McDonald was there. So you really got to hear the whole, range of sounds. And really, I mean, most of the hit songs that they've had over that period of, 15, 20 years.
Yeah, so Michael McDonald really changed their sound and made a big impact.
It's funny. I have a 27-year-old daughter, and I don't know whether this was me. I think it was probably me that would be driving down the road and hear a song, and Michael McDonald is associated with the Doobies, but he's done so much on so many other songs, from probably 1975 to 1985 or 1990. He was backing on. He was everywhere, right? So we'd have a joke. We were driving down the line, and I'd say, "Who's that?" And she'd be like, McDonald. And to this day,
Mhm.
she still can pick him out singing on all these different songs. So
Yeah,
yeah, it was kind of neat.
very distinctive voice.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're going to move on to Steve Winwood's set. You want to talk about that?
Yeah, so Steve led off 10 songs, not a very long set, but he covered really the entire breadth of his career. So songs from each of the three bands plus his solo career. So that was really neat. And so, for example, one of the songs that I really liked from the Blind Faith time frame was the song "Can't Find My Way Home." I'm going to play a little bit of that for you.
Come down off your throne and leave your body alone. Somebody must do. You are the reason in the way you. Somebody hold the key. But I'm and I just think of the time. Oh, the wasted, can't find my way home.
So yeah, that was one of the highlights. I definitely was looking forward to hearing that one. One of the other ones they played, you probably remember, was from his solo career, which was back in the High Life. And do you remember he had another artist kind of singing harmony with him on that one? Do you remember which artist that was?
Back in the High Life, that song?
Yes.
Uh, was it James Taylor?
Yeah, you got it. You are the 80s music muse. I tried to trick you on that one. And so they played that, and I found myself sitting there like, wow, I kind of missed the James Taylor part, so that was kind of interesting. The next song he did that I really liked was Higher Love, and I'll play a little bit of that one for you too.
Down in the heart of hidden in the stars above, without
So yeah, that was one of my favorites back in the day. Now I didn't play enough of it, but at the end of that, there's another guest artist that sings on that part. Do you remember who that was?
Of course, I know who that is. That's Shaka Khan.
Yeah, one of our favorites. So
Yeah.
I'm 0 for 2 in the Stump Kelly Derby today. But anyway, yeah, and again, when they're playing that song, I love that song. But man, did I miss the Shaka part? So it's interesting, when you know these the recorded versions, and then they're playing it live, and you're like, wait a minute, they didn't have that.
Yeah. So
But
it changed the whole vibe of the song.
it did. I really felt like in the James Taylor and the Shaka Khan parts, I missed it. I'm like, this is good, but I want to hear that Shaka hitting those high notes. So, so just a little bit about the backing band. It was very interesting. I actually nudged the person next to me and said, "Do you notice anything different?" And this was at a point, like I mentioned, Steve is a multi-instrumentalist, so he played acoustic piano, he played organ, he played guitar, and he even played mandolin. But at one point in the set, you look on the stage, and Steve is playing one of the keyboards. I think he was playing the organ. One of the other guys was playing the acoustic piano. They had, the drummer, and they had a percussion guy. They had a woodwind guy, primarily played sax, but also played a little flute. And then they had a young woman. And when they went to the band introductions, they introduced her, and I'm like, wait a minute, what they say? And I had to ask somebody near me, and it turned out that it was Lilly Winwood, who's Steve's daughter. So she was like the backing musician on the thing. But I nudged the person next to me and said, "What do you notice?" And they didn't know what to say. And I said, "There's no guitars. There was there wasn't a bass guitar, there wasn't an acoustic guitar, there was an electric guitar. There's no guitars." Now, like I said, later on another song, Steve would play the guitar, and he played it tremendously well. But I thought it was really interesting. When have you ever seen, a rock concert, and you didn't have a guitar on the stage?
Never.
Yeah. So I thought that was kind of interesting. The mandolin was kind of interesting. That was back in the High Life. So it was an interesting sound, So that was kind of what was going on for the Steve Winwood set.
Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit more about the Doobie Brothers. And,
Sure.
I have a question for you. So, do you have a preference between the classic Doobie Brothers hits or the Michael McDonald era songs?
Oh, I do, and it was very clear during this set. Now, the set was about 17 songs with a 3-song encore, and they did a great job of alternating the genres. So they started off with classic Doobies, stuff like Long Train Runnin' and that kind of stuff. And then they the next song would be one of the Michael McDonald ones, like maybe What a Fool Believes or something like that. And they really kind of alternated all the way through. There was a part in the middle where it got a little bit, say, fuzzy. They played one of their newer songs, which, it was okay. But yes, I absolutely prefer the Blue-Eyed Soul, the Michael McDonald sound. That's just much more pleasing to me.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the highlights of this concert for you was "You Belong to Me." That was one of them, and also "It Keeps You Running."
Yep. Now both of those were, Michael McDonald oriented. In fact, you might recall, "You Belong to Me" was actually it was written by both Michael and Carly Simon. And so it was released first by the Doobies, and I think it was on their "Living on the Fault Line" album. So let's just play a little bit of that for you.
Okay.
Why'd you tell me this? Girl, you look for my reaction. What do you need to know? Don't you know I'll always be the one? You don't have to prove to me you're beautiful to strangers. I got loving eyes. Oh, my. You belong to me in this life. Anyone could tell, any fool could see who you need. I know you want to well. You don't have to prove to be beautiful to strangers. I got loving eyes, and I can't tell.
So yeah, so I've got a question for you. Of the two versions of the Michael or the Carly, which one do you prefer?
Michael.
Oh, it's interesting. It has a really swampy, funky keyboard part in there, which like I said, it's a very different sound from. We'll play one of the classic Doobies in a minute.
Mm-hmm.
So it's yeah. There was one other highlight that you mentioned the song, but it was the song "Keeps You Running." I won't play that one, but what was a highlight is they brought out Lilly Winwood to sing on that, and she, like I said, she was backing her father. You really couldn't. You couldn't tell a whole lot. It wasn't like a very prevalent part of the song. It makes it basically singing harmony or whatever. But she came out and do the lead. And of course, that's normally a Michael McDonald lead. I wasn't sure whether that was to give her a little bit of FaceTime, which it could be, or, to give Michael McDonald a little break, which it could be.
Mm-hmm.
These guys are on a, really frenetic tour. I think this was the third show in 4 nights or something like that, in all different cities. So maybe his voice needed a little break. But it was nice. And, it was nice to hear a different voice. She definitely did a good job with it. And you could certainly tell that there was a lot of talent there. So that was kind of fun. The set kind of lagged a little bit. Like I said, it had some, parts that were not as quite as dynamic. And then they closed the set with 3 kind of, What a Fool Believes, which is a Michael McDonald, then Long Train Running and China Grove. And then
Mm-hmm.
China Grove is the real, kind of classic Doobie sound. So let's take a listen to that.
When the sun comes up on sleepy little town,
So you can tell the difference in feel from that, compared to You Belong to Me, right?
Yes.
But I like that song. It was great. It was a great kind of set closer. Now, obviously, then it went to the encore, but you're looking for one of those songs that kind of really drives it home, and that was a good one. I loved that one when it first came out back in the '70s. It was a real fun song. So they had then they did the encore. The band left the stage, and they came back. And what was interesting is they actually brought Steve Winwood back on the stage. And I thought that was kind of interesting. And they did Blackwater, which again is a kind of a classic Doobies, guitar oriented song. And then they did this one, which was definitely, kind of a Michael McDonald oriented one, but they had Steve chip in on one of the verses. So here we go with Taking It to the Streets. So yeah, that's one of those that you wanted to hear going to the concert. So I was thrilled that they did that. And then the last one they did was more of, again, a classic Doobies. Listen to the music, and they had like I said, they had Steve on both. Just a real quick rundown of the band. The band they basically have four kind of lead guys. They have Tom Johnston, Patrick Simmons, Michael McDonald, and the fourth guy is John McPhee. I don't know if you know John, but he's a guitar player and he sang on a couple of the songs. Then they have the bass, the percussion, the drums, and then they had a sax guy by the name of Mark Russo, and we'll talk a little bit more about him. One of the things that I was kind of amazed at is, and again, wasn't making a specific note the whole time, but after I got done, I'm like, holy crap, I bet they had a sax solo in every song. Now, I don't think it was literally every song, but it seemed that way, right? So he was constantly, involved in the music, which I thought was, kind of neat. So yeah, so that was the Doobie set, and we show started right at 7, ended up close to 11. So they had a pretty lengthy intermission, but it was was a real long, good night of music there in suburban Chicago.
All right, I gotta ask, was there any dancing?
Oh yeah, absolutely. It wasn't as much maybe as the last one I went to was the Earth, Wind and Fire and Chicago one. Probably not quite as much of that, but like I said, the last set of the Doobies Encore, absolutely, those songs were, everybody was up.
Okay, cool. So you want to talk about the sax guys?
Yeah. So first of all, in retrospect, and I'm a sax guy. I'm what I call a saxophile. I think that's a word. And I thought that they had terrific sax work on both sets. Steve Winwood's guy is the guy by the name of Paul Booth. And I'd never really heard of him before, but I did a little bit of research on him. He's a very, very credentialed guy that has toured and performed and recorded with artists like the Eagles, Eric Clapton, Steely Dan, Carlos Santana, Shaka Khan, and our favorite Jamiroquai. So I thought that was pretty interesting. And on the Doobies, we're talking about Mark Russo, who played with Tower of Power back in the 80s and has also recorded with Aretha and Whitney and Steve Winwood, and was also with Kenny Loggins. So, both of those guys were really important to the sound of their respective ensembles. And like I said, especially Russo seemed like he was continually almost featured, as part of every song, which was pretty amazing. So it was neat. And for a sax guy like myself, I really ate that up.
Yeah, great. So, any final thoughts?
Well, really two. The first one was what I'd call regrets, right? So for Steve Winwood, it would be the songs I didn't hear. And like I said, he had a short set, so obviously they're not going to play everything. One of his more recent songs is a song called Dirty City. I think it was recorded in 2009. That's a neat one. I didn't expect that one to be on there. But one I kind of thought might have been was one that went back to the, I think it was the Traffic Days, which was the Low Spark of High Heeled Boys. And that's kind of got an interesting title, but it's a real neat, funky song. It has a neat sax solo in it, and I kind of missed that one. And for the Doobies, they played almost every hit that you would have expected. The one I was kind of hoping to hear was kind of the more laid back, Another Park, Another Sunday. That's one that I like. So the last point that I would make there is at the end in the encore, when they brought Steve Winwood back, Patrick Simmons kind of did a little bit of a shout out to him as he was coming out to the stage, and you could just see and feel the mutual respect and admiration between Steve Winwood and the Doobies band members, and I think he was gratified to ask to join them, and they were thrilled that he did, and what I thought was interesting is I checked with a couple of other of our followers who have been to some of the earlier stops on the tour. We have a follower by the name of Gal 22 Sunshine. Hi, hope you're listening to this. And she was at the Madison Square Garden show, and then another one of our followers, the Yacht Rock playlist consultant, and he was there a couple weeks ago, I think. And I checked with them, and they said, was Winwood, on the encore, and they both said that he wasn't. So I don't know if that was a one-off that they just decided to do that night, or that maybe they're changing things up a little bit in the middle of the tour. So if there's any of our followers that are going to be seeing this show, later on in September, please get back to us and let us know what you find. But I thought it was a neat element. I definitely thought there was a neat, pardon the pun, harmony between Winwood and the Doobies, and they're kind of contemporaries in the years in which they were performing. But not really. You would not normally, I don't think, see them on the same stage. So it was kind of fun to see that, and to see the shared respect that they had for each other. So yeah, great show. Loved it. Thanks for sending me on that assignment. I'm really glad that I could, to be there in the audience.
Yes, we're so happy that you made it there too. And you were an excellent groove ambassador.
Well, thank you.
And he did take some video, and we have put a few of the videos, concert videos, on YouTube. So you go to It's the Groove Podcast on YouTube, and you'll see some of Dave's concert videos.
By the way, if you're listening to this on YouTube, or you go onto YouTube to check out those videos, please like and subscribe to us. We would love to hear from you. You can also drop us a note, either through YouTube, or you can go onto our website, which is itsthegroove.com, and you can send us comments there as well. We also have a concert review blog. If you wanted any more information, you could do that. Would love to have you drop us a note like Kelly's mom did. So, hi, Mom. Thanks for the note.
Mom. Yes.
All right. With that, I hear the clock strike at midnight, which is my sound to say thanks for listening to our episode. Stay tuned. We've got a lot of great new content coming your way, and so remember, it's not the beat, it's the groove. Thanks for listening.